Good evening. This is CTV News for Wednesday, June 27th. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Denise Douglas. So glad you could join us this evening. Former NAACP President Ben Jealous is celebrating after nabbing the Democratic gubernatorial nomination. Jealous beat Prince George's County Executive Rashawn Baker and 7 other candidates. He supports criminal justice reform, fully funding education, and Medicare for all. During a news conference, he came out swinging against Governor Larry Hogan, who he will face in the fall.
It's not a partisan thing that your kid comes out layered in debt from college. You want to know, how do we stop that? Somebody who's raising 2 kids in our public schools. I've listened to public school parents all across the state, deeply frustrated about the broken promise on the casino money. And let me be clear. We have run towards every issue. We're not afraid of talking about any issue. This issue of taxes, Larry Hogan, a real message for Larry Hogan. First of all, brother, you didn't keep your promise. You told the people of this state you would cut taxes all over the place. You didn't do it. And on top of that, they remain deeply unfair. I can take you 4 blocks from here and introduce you to senior citizens who are losing their homes because property taxes in Baltimore are too high and they can't afford to pay them.
Jealous served as president of the NAACP from 2008 to 2012. During his tenure, he focused on criminal justice reform, voting rights, and a number of other issues.
County Executive Rashawn Baker was humble in his defeat last night, saying his opponent Ben Jealous ran a great campaign. So where did Baker go wrong? CTV's Sonia Srivastava has her story.
You know, this is a bittersweet night for me. But it is about the work we have to do tomorrow.
His goal when he took over 8 years ago was to change the perception of the county as it emerged from a cloud of corruption from his predecessor.
I think, do we have challenges? Yes. You know, we still have to deal with issues around our school system, but if you look at economic development, you look at crime reduction, you look at job growth, I mean, we're outpacing the region and the state.
I think he's done a lot in terms of economically turning the county around. Just improving the reputation of the county.
Jealous beat Baker by a 10% margin. Many here were expecting a much tighter race.
I kind of felt in some ways that Ben Jealous came out of nowhere. And so I was like, this really isn't going to happen.
I'm disappointed, but you know, he ran a good race. He's done just wonderfully.
Although Baker captured almost 50% of the vote in Prince George's, many have criticized him for trying to overhaul the school system, which many felt alienated him from powerful teachers' unions. It's no coincidence his opponent got their support. But more recently, his decision to continuously stick by Dr. Kevin Maxwell, even after numerous scandals, may have hampered his campaign.
Some of his opponents have used that to say he can't run a school system, he can't run a state. What do you say to that?
I've never met anyone in my life more committed to public education and to public schools than Rashawn Baker. And working on public schools, it would have been more politically popular for him to do what a lot of other county executives have done, which is not touch public education.
There were negative ads that were put out about Dr. Maxwell, but at the end of the day, it really was about executing. They ran the campaign they needed to win. I've been on both sides of this. I've been on the winning side and the losing side, and so there are a myriad of things that can go right and go wrong.
Democrats outnumber Republicans in Maryland by a margin of 2-1, and President Donald Trump is not popular in the state. Baker says he will work hard to get a Democrat in the state house, and the first shot at Hogan begins now.
Governor Hogan made a great, deal about Congressman Brown when he was in charge of the health exchange. And here, 2 days before the election, you can't even run, the MVA to make sure that this happens.
In College Park, Sonia Srivastava for CTV News.
Thank you for that story, Sonia. Meanwhile, the crowded field of candidates who were hoping to be Prince George's next county executive has thinned significantly. Angela Alsobrooks was the winner in yesterday's primary election. Byron Scott has our story.
Claiming victory fairly early into the night, county executive candidate Angela Alsobrooks took to the stage at the University of Maryland and danced to a Stevie Wonder tune.
Team Also Brooks, give yourselves a round of applause, please.
It was, by all accounts, a landslide. Also Brooks capturing 77,000, or 62% of the vote, leaving her closest rival, Donna Edwards, in the dust with 30,000, or 24% of the vote.
Angela has made history tonight.
And your thoughts about that?
I'm very ecstatic. We did it. Can we do one more?
The long, persistent months of campaigning continued until the polls closed last night. Also Brooks still out and greeting voters at Reed Temple.
My biggest and most heartfelt thank you tonight is to the people of Prince George's County, Maryland. Thank you so much to Prince George's County.
The state's attorney faced 8 others in the run-up to the primary.
As they say, this is not my first rodeo.
Some well-known, others less well-known, all of whom believe they have the right stuff to lead the residents of Prince George's County.
I've been working with the campaign from the beginning for about 2 years now. And I sat on the polls today. It was a steady, not real heavy, but a steady flow. And I'm ecstatic about these numbers.
A spokesperson for Also Brooks says they expected to win, but not by such a large margin. Over at the Edwards watch party last night, a deflated dream created the possibility of another day. But for Also Brooks, a mandate to make a campaign promise of a better future a reality.
We believe in our future. We believe that we can educate our children. We believe that we can care for our elders. We believe that we can provide affordable housing for those who need it. We believe we can grow this economy and create jobs and hope for our children. We believe in the young men in our community, that we can develop them, and the young women in our community. Prince Georgians believe in Prince George's County.
In College Park, Byron Scott, CTV News.
Because Prince George's is heavily Democratic, it is very likely that Also Brooks will win in the fall when she faces Republican Jerry Mathis.
Well, there were many surprises in the Democratic primary last night, but what made the winning difference for State's Attorney Angela Also Brooks as opposed to County Executive Sharon Baker? Veteran political analyst Alvin Thornton says the margin of victory Tuesday night was based on perception as well as reality.
Baker was always a local personality, and that hurt with Sharon Baker. Baker got tied to him local issues, trash pickup, schools, right? Anger about local politicians. Jealous had none of that. Jealous was an NAACP national figure attached to national energy, i.e. Bernie Sanders, and he brought that back into Maryland and beat Sharon Baker and beat the establishment. Progressive, more diverse group that Jealous represents needing to align itself with the older Steny Hoyer, Van Hollen, Mike Miller, part of the Democratic Party. Now, if those two wings can converge and they can increase the voter turnout, particularly among the black community, then Hogan is beatable. If they cannot, then Hogan wins.
Well, voters also went to the polls to decide on some hotly contested seats on the Prince George's County Council. The biggest change to the local lawmaking body is 2 newly created at-large seats. 9 Democratic candidates and 1 Republican candidate were vying for those positions. The top vote getters are Mel Franklin with 20% and Calvin Hawkins with 18%. In District 1, Tom Dernoga beat Laurel Mayor Craig Moe with 52% of the vote. Dernoga held the same seat from 2002 to 2010. Incumbent Denny Taveras held on to her District 2 seat in another tight race. She beat Hyattsville Mayor Candace Hollingsworth with nearly 53% of the vote. Former Delegate Jolene Ivey won the District 5 seat easily with 73% of the ballots cast. Incumbent Derek Leon Davis keeps his District 6 seat in a landslide victory. Rodney Streeter is beating Crystal Oriata by only 9 votes, a race that could depend on absentee and provisional ballots cast. Tony Knotts was campaigning to get his old District 8 seat back, but lost to Monique Anderson Walker, who won by 2,500 votes. In District 9, Sidney Harrison won with 35% of the ballots cast. In the largely blue district, most of the Democratic winners are expected to be the top runners in the general election. And in the nonpartisan Board of Education races, Lupe Grady and Joshua Thomas will face off in the November election for District 2. Pamela Boozer-Strother and Jawan Blocker will do the same in District 3. Carolyn Boston and Belinda Queen face off in District 6. And Sonia Williams and Aaron Parakin will do the same in District 9. Aisha Braveboy beats out 2 other Democratic candidates for the next state's attorney of Prince George's, and Sheriff Melvin High could very well keep his seat in November after winning the primary with 52% of the votes.
Well, Patty, here are a few more races that we want to mention in the state Senate from last night's primary. We're taking a look at District 25. Melanie Griffith replaces outgoing Ulysses Curry. District 26, Anthony Muse left to run for a county executive. Council member Obie Patterson will run for his seat in the general election. And in District 47, Malcolm Augustine won the primary for the seat being vacated by Victor Ramirez, who left to run for state's attorney. In the House, Mary Lehman joins District 21 slate, filling the seat vacated by Barbara Frush. Former council member Andrea Harrison and Giles Lewis joined the District 24 slate, and Nick Charles does the same in District 25. In District 47A, Julian Ivey grabs his seat held by Jimmy Tarlow, and Wanika Fisher replaces Carlos Sanchez. Perhaps the biggest upset in the Maryland General Assembly took place in District 23B, where longtime head of the House Judiciary Committee, Joseph Valerio, lost his seat to school board member Ron Watson. Lots of stuff going on from last night.
There's a lot of big surprises.
Exactly. You're watching CTV News. I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Patricia Vallone.